Hello, my name is María Macaya, and I'm the trauma-sensitive yoga facilitator at Rādika. This session that we're about to do might be your first trauma-sensitive yoga session. And you might be doing it perhaps because you're about to embark on our 7-week training together, where we will learn the reasons behind why we work in the way that you're about to see that we work, and how to do it yourself, how to be able to facilitate sessions in this way, and understanding, yes, all the backstage of it, and also putting yourself in the front stage of it, perhaps. And so for this session, which is your pre-training session, perhaps you might just want to experience it and see how you feel, how it sounds to you. Perhaps try to be less in the brain, in the mind, and more in the sensations, in the body, which is a large part of what we're going to be doing during our time together. You might notice that some of the things are a little different. Some of the ways that I speak or offer suggestions are a little bit different than what you're used to in what we'll call regular yoga sessions. So yes, those thoughts might come to your brain, but just try to perhaps enjoy it if that works for you. So we'll begin together. If you're ready, you know that, I mean, with a trauma-sensitive yoga session, you can simply watch it. Okay, you could decide to sit and watch, or sit and listen, or you might decide to practice. So whatever it is that you choose to do, you might want to come onto your hands and knees. And from here, you could perhaps stay here for a moment, just watching your hands, noticing your knees on the ground. Or you could perhaps choose to begin to arch and round your back. If you do choose to round and arch your back, you might make small movements. Or you might choose to make the movements a little bigger. Your eyes might be closed, they might be open. That's always an option, to open your eyes or to close them. And when you're ready, if you are in movement, you could perhaps come to center, and you might choose to stay here or tuck your toes under and come into an upside down V shape, or what in yoga is often called a downward facing dog. Your legs might be bent or they might be straight, or you could also choose to pedal out your legs by bringing one of your heels down to the ground as the other one remains lifted, and then switching and bringing your other heel down and lifting the other one. So you might be in stillness here with your legs bent or straight, or you might be in movement as you pedal out your feet. And you might choose to stay here for a few more moments. Or you could perhaps choose to come into a plank and bring the knees down to the ground and either stay here or come to lie down on your abdomen. Your feet might be with the toes tucked under, with your feet pointed, and perhaps with your hands next to your ribs. You could choose to stay here, or you could choose to press into your hands and lift your head and lift your shoulders, and either stay here or come back down to bring your forehead down to the ground and let your head rest. And here you have the opportunity to remain in stillness with your head down, resting on the ground with your head lifted, perhaps gazing in front of you. Or you could choose to be in movement and lifting and lowering your head and shoulders. Your breath might be at its own rhythm. Or you could choose to inhale as you lift if you're in movement, or exhale as you lower. So perhaps inhaling as you lift and exhaling as you lower. If you are in movement, or your head and shoulders are lifted, when ready, bringing your head back down to the ground, perhaps bringing your forehead down to the ground, or bringing your cheek down to the ground. And when ready, bringing your attention to your hands. The fingers might be separated or they might be together. And in your own time, pushing into your hands to bring your seat back behind you. And perhaps you might choose to stay here for a count of 3, 2, 1. And then when ready, going back into your upside down V shape or downward facing dog. Choosing to take big steps or small steps with your feet. Beginning to bring your feet forward. And when they come towards the front of your mat, you might choose to keep them slightly apart or bring them together. And perhaps bending your knees, allowing your torso, your arms, your shoulders to roll up so that you come to standing. Maybe coming to the front of your mat. Your feet again might be together. They might be slightly apart. And you might choose to stay here. Or perhaps lifting your arms up. Your gaze might be up towards your hands, or you might choose to gaze in front of you. And either stay here or begin to fold your body forward. Perhaps bringing your hands down to the floor or onto your shins. When ready, bringing your hands down to the floor if they are not already there, and stepping one of your feet back behind you. You might choose to stay here, or you could perhaps come onto your fingertips. Begin to extend and bend your front knee. So either remaining in stillness, you gaze forward or down, or perhaps bringing some movement by extending and bending your front leg. If you are in movement, you might want to take this opportunity to notice any sensations in your legs. And if you are in movement, when ready, coming to bend your front knee, bringing your hands down to the ground, and stepping back into your downward facing dog. Legs bent or straight. And when ready, stepping perhaps your other foot forward, or you might choose to bring the same one. So maybe if before you had your right foot forward, this time you have your left. or you might choose to have the same one that you did on the first leg. And again, like on the first round, you might choose to remain here in stillness, gazing forward or gazing down, or you might choose to bring some movement by bending and extending your front leg. And if you do choose to be in movement, you might want to take a moment to notice any sensations that there might be in your legs. There might be sensations, there might not be. And when you're ready, perhaps bringing your hands down to the ground if you were in movement, or bending your leg again. And when ready, coming into your downward facing dog or upside down V shape with your legs bent or your legs straight. And in your own time, you might do it with small steps or with big steps. Walking your feet forward. Again, your feet might be together or they might be apart. Legs might be straight or bent. You could choose to keep your hands on the ground or on your shins, or you could perhaps choose to take a hold of opposite elbows. Your head might be gazing towards the ground in front of you, or you might choose to let the head relax, your head relax, and let the gaze be behind you. You might choose to be in stillness, or you could choose to bring your weight slightly forward, bring your weight slightly back, bring your weight toward your heels, and then more toward your toes. And as you do this, you might find that there is one place where you're more at ease. It might be toward your heels, it might be towards your toes, or it might be somewhere in the center. And when ready, bringing your hands down to the ground and stepping back into your downward facing dog. When ready, bringing your knees down to the ground, perhaps pointing the feet and coming to sit on your heels. You might choose to sit on your heels, or you could choose to bring your legs in front of you, wherever you're more comfortable. I'm going to bring my legs in front of me. You could do what I'm doing, or you could be on your heels. And from here, bringing one of your hands to the opposite knee and the other hand behind you. And perhaps remaining here, gazing in front of you, or you could choose to twist by turning over to the side of the hand, your hand that is behind you. Your eyes might be open, they might be closed. And when you're ready, coming to center. And you might choose to twist to the other side. You might choose to stay gazing center. You might choose to go to the same side. So you're changing sides or going to the same side or going to center, choosing what works better for you today. Your gaze might remain in front of you, or you might choose to gaze behind you. And when you're ready, coming to the center, And either choosing to stay here, if you're sitting on your heels, perhaps you want to come to sit on your seat for the next form we're going to do together. If you do choose to do it, you might choose to bring your hands behind you and bring your weight slightly back, perhaps bringing your heels just to the ground and letting your feet lift up. You might choose to stay here, pressing your heels down into the ground, or you might choose to lift your heels off the ground. So the choice here is to keep your heels down the ground with your heels pressing into the ground as your fingertips press into the ground behind you. Or you might choose to bring more of your weight onto your fingers and allow your legs and feet to lift. And when you're ready, wherever you are, bringing your feet down to the ground, perhaps bringing your hands onto opposite shins, and either staying here or bringing your head to rest down. And when ready, lifting up. And again, perhaps bringing your hands behind you, your fingertips on the ground. You can always look behind you if you want to see just what's there. And again, you might perhaps choose to flex your feet and press your heels down into the ground, press your fingertips. Perhaps if you're doing that actively, noticing the texture of the surface that's beneath your feet and hands, whether it changes the shape of the pressure or it remains the same. Or you might choose to lift your feet up. And when you're here, you could choose to be, if you have lifted your legs, you could choose to keep your legs bent, or you could choose to bend and extend your legs maybe 3 times each leg. So perhaps extending one of your legs, one, and then the other. That would be number 1. Doing it perhaps a second time with one leg and then the other. And perhaps doing a third time, extending one leg and then the other. And when ready, bringing your feet down and perhaps bringing your hands onto opposite shins and allowing your head to rest. And when you're ready, lifting up. And perhaps keeping your legs bent or extending your legs forward. Choose a place where you feel you are comfortable. So you can always try. So you could extend your legs and notice if you feel at ease there. You could bend your legs, notice if you're at ease there, and find that place where you feel you're comfortable. And perhaps keeping your hands over your knees or on the ground on either side of your legs. You could choose to stay here gazing forward, or you could choose to walk your hands forward and bringing your torso forward. Your head might still be gazing forward, or you might choose to extend the back of your neck. Your eyes might be open or closed. We're going to be in stillness perhaps here for a count of 5. Beginning with 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And when you're ready, walking your hands back and coming. Have your torso upright, We're going to come to relax on our backs. You might choose to lie on your backs with nothing, or perhaps I have a blanket with me. So you could perhaps choose to place the blanket over you or cover you, whatever it is that makes you feel comfortable. Another option is also to place it underneath your head. So perhaps with no blanket, or placing the blanket over you, or placing the blanket underneath your head. Whatever works best for you today. Your hand might be with the palms facing down, or with the palms facing up. And you might choose to keep your eyes open, or you might choose to close your eyes. And wherever you've chosen to be, you might choose to remain in stillness, or you could perhaps wiggle your toes and notice the movement in your toes. Notice any sensations you have there. And when ready, allowing the toes, your toes, to come to stillness. You could choose to remain in stillness, or you could choose to allow your legs to turn in and turn out. And notice any sensations in your legs as you do this. Perhaps as you notice the surface that's beneath your legs, or the material of the clothing you might be wearing. And if you are in movement, when ready, allowing your legs to come to stillness. You might choose to remain in stillness, or you could choose to open and close your fists. It might be smaller movements or bigger movements, faster or slower. Up to you to decide. And when you're ready, if you are in movement, allowing your hands to come to relax. You could choose to remain in stillness, or you could choose to let your head roll to one side, and then coming through center and roll perhaps to the other side. And maybe doing this once, or you might choose to do it a couple more times. The movements might be very small, or they might be a little bigger. If you are in movement, perhaps noticing sensation of your back, of your head on the mat, on the blanket. And when ready, coming to center. Perhaps taking this moment to count inside you from 5 down. And when we have reached 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, perhaps taking a moment Begin to wiggle your feet, wiggle your hands. You might choose to stay that way, or you could choose to perhaps extend your arms behind you, extend your legs, become very long. That's a choice. A choice is also to remain with your hands by your side, whatever works better for you today. And as we begin to come back, you might choose to bring your knees in towards you. You could do it lightly, or perhaps you might wish to bring them a little closer to you. And when ready, rolling over onto your side, perhaps placing your hands or your arm underneath your head. And taking this moment here being on your side is a form that can soothe the nervous system. It can relax, it can make us feel protected and safe. We're so often taken up by children or as adults when we want to cuddle in. Find that perhaps within your stillness, it might work for you and it might not. And when you're ready and in your own time, perhaps helping yourself with one of your hands to come to lift and come to sit. Perhaps coming to sit with your legs in front of you or your legs crossed. And taking perhaps one moment to just look around the place where you're in, coming back to your space, reorienting yourself. Thank you very much for joining me.